Kia ora and welcome to No Boundaries off the back of a BLACKCAPS loss to South Africa, 190 runs. They're still in fourth place on the table, so the semi-final hopes are still alive for the BLACKCAPS, but not an easy day for them at all. We're going to get into this, of course, with our team here, and we're also crossing over to India to have a chat with Glenn Phillips. So first in the studio, Scott Styris, thank you very much for joining us. Mike Hesson down in Dunedin. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, let's have a chat with Glenn Phillips. Glenn, not an easy day at the office. How's the squad feeling coming out of that?
Yeah, I think in a World Cup run you have some tough losses, and I think for us it's about moving on to the next thing as quick as possible. We've got a really short turnaround. Dwell on the past too much now. Just keep looking forward.
Yeah, a lot of talk, certainly in the media, and I guess us speculating back here about the decision at the toss. And to bowl first when South Africa don't really like to chase, and you guys have shown that you can put some real pressure on the opposition that way. What was the thinking behind that decision? Do you know?
Well, at the end of the day, we've got all our scouting mechanisms. A lot of the information led to the idea that we should probably try and chase. Obviously, South Africa are very good at setting, but with our bowling attack, we thought that we had the opportunity to keep them under wraps. Obviously, that wasn't the case today, but our chasing has been pretty good recently. We've come close, obviously, that tight loss against Aussie, but we were pretty confident that with the dew factor that we thought was going to play a part in it and the pitch quickening up a little bit, I think the idea to bowl first was still the right option, but obviously South Africa just played better than us today.
Yeah, Glenn, yeah, I mean, obviously chasing and dew is a factor in India. The other thing to consider, and it looked from here that the ball nipped a little bit more under lights with the new ball than it did during the daytime, and then potentially even spun some more. Is that something that you guys talked about or you noticed throughout the day?
I think it varies depending on the grounds. Obviously, you know yourself that some grounds don't turn, they become absolutely flat, and some actually do turn a little bit under the dew factor. So it wasn't necessarily, I guess, thought about fully. Maybe there was some chat in the dressing room between Tom and coaches, and I guess some ideas were played around with. But at the end of the day, we thought with the pitch being a little bit slower during the day, we had enough in our ball to be able to restrict them. Obviously, it nipped around a lot second innings, and South Africa got the ball to swing, which made it tough for us, and then Keta getting there a bit of turn out of the footies. So and hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I think we dealt with the information we had as best we could.
Glenn, what did the chat in the changing room after this game sound like?
It was very simple. As I said before, Kane talked to us about moving forward, making sure that we have our mindset on what's up ahead, understanding that tournaments like this, you have some big wins, you have some tight wins, you have some tight losses, and you have some big losses. So, and then today was just our big loss. We've got to keep our heads up, our chests out, and make sure that we go into the next game really pumped.
You yourself have put in some terrific performances throughout, making some real difference, which is great to see. Quinton de Kock, who was the century maker today, is well known worldwide as having a bit of a problem against off spinners. At any point, had Tom asked you to warm up, or were you expecting a call with the ball a little earlier than, say, the 17th over?
No, obviously we had things under wraps quite nicely leading into the 20 over mark. I think we had them around us. So things were working along nicely. Obviously, South Africa poised themselves to launch quite big at the end. So, and understanding that the ground is still quite small, knowing that a big side is still only 69 metres. So the right-hand, left-hand matchup is always something to consider as the captain. And, when he brought me on, it was to do a job and I guess to try and shut down the right-hander and to be able to put the Cock under a bit of pressure. Obviously, a few chances landed in gaps, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I always relish the challenge.
Yeah, so talking about your bowling, GP, I know you work pretty hard at it, and obviously coming into this tournament without Michael Bracewell, I guess there's some extra responsibility there. Is that something you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, as you said, work over the years, and to be able to have the opportunity to not only succeed, to be able to fail and then come back and understand that as a bowler, you're not going to have a good day every day. But the idea is you want to have your plans in place and understand the conditions and what the team needs at that point in time. And I think the way Tommy's used me, as well as all the other bowlers, as well, has been incredible.
Glenn, before we go, a couple of injury worries. Matt Henry with a hamstring and Jimmy Neesham appears to have a bruised wrist. Obviously, you've got a few others within the squad. Can you give us a bit of an update on how those guys are going?
As far as I'm aware, Matt Henry's going for a scan, and we'll see what happens when we get the results of that back. And then with Jimmy's X-ray, he's come back all good. There's no fracture or anything that we can see. So hopefully, once the swelling goes down, he'll be back to go.
And Lockie Ferguson, is he looking all right now?
Yeah, actually nursing a little bit of an Achilles strain. So going about his business and understanding what will bring him back with his recovery is something we need to look at.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Glenn. Good luck for the rest of the tournament. Hope it all goes well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Tough week to be playing South Africa in any sport. Like, goodness.
Yeah.
Really tough. Scotty, talk to me about what went wrong here. Obviously, at the very start, they made the choice to bowl first once again. It didn't work last time. It didn't work this time.
Yeah, this is a tough one, and maybe this is where Mike Hesson's experience can come in as a coach. Do you make a decision based around what you prefer to do or the opposition's weakness? Now, we know South Africa have had real issues, not just in the recent past, but over the last 20, 25 years, chasing when they get under pressure. And they've already shown in this tournament that they've fallen over when they're doing that, batting second. So, but New Zealand also like to chase. So that you can understand why they wanted to bowl first for that reason. But I'm more interested as well here around that. I mean, is that something that you take into consideration, the opposition's weakness or less preferred option? Because South Africa are a vastly different batting unit when they have to bat second.
Yeah, look, I think you look at it in two ways, don't you? You look at your strengths, but then you go, hey, is that outweighed by the fact that South Africa's batting lineup is completely different when they chase? And we know that they are. Whenever they get under pressure, whenever there's a scoreboard pressure, they're very different. And I think New Zealand is set up and can bat first and can bat first effectively. So I think then you look at conditions and you go, well, obviously we're based around seam bowling. You know, they're our strength. You know, Trent, Tim and Hennas are our strength. And where's it most likely to help us from a bowling point of view? And there's no doubt that under lights in India, the ball swings around more. Now, if you're bowling at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in India at this time of year, the ball does not swing. So you're almost negating your seam bowling attack, which is your strength, by bowling first. And by doing that, are we a good enough batting side and chasing side, especially without Kane Williamson? And I know we were very good last game, but we still fell short. But it was more the fact that last game we were put under pressure again because the ball didn't swing. So, yeah, for me, it was a strange decision. And it was a decision that wasn't strange in hindsight. It was actually at the time we thought, no, against South Africa, that's probably not the move.
But it's not like they don't have experience in those conditions. So many of these players play there so regularly. It seems odd that would happen. So what could possibly have been their thinking?
Well, I mean, statistically, you can be driven by that. Statistically, it's a chasing ground. You know, in T20 cricket, it's a chasing ground. 2 years ago, England chased down India's 330 with 30, 40 balls to spare. But that's in the past, and it's also a different time of year. So, I think sometimes you can be caught out by that. Or you can get caught out by going, hey, we had such a good chase last time, we probably just didn't quite fall over the line the way we would have liked against Australia. Let's do it again. Whereas, you probably need a reset and probably go, hey, against South Africa, as Scotty's alluded to, and you've been part of it, Scotty, South Africa are not a good full stop.
Looking at this bowling lineup and the fact that they're copping 350 plus the last couple of games, what needs to change here in order to lift this up?
Well, I spoke before the tournament started, or in the first game that I was here in the studio, and I said New Zealand's blueprint will be very similar to 2019. It'll be based around their 5 bowlers, and their 5 bowlers must do a good job restricting opposition to low totals. Now, low totals is a relative term, what we saw in England versus now, but they have to do the job so that pressure doesn't get put on the batsman. Now, if there is no swing, then I think we are in a bit of trouble. Losing Lockie Ferguson, who has that point of difference from the rest of the attack in terms of his out-and-out pace, I think is a big blow, even though, you know, the first few games he was really good, the last couple perhaps not quite so good, but there's a little bit of a sameness about this bowling lineup we had. So we needed conditions that suited us, and that may be the reason why we're questioning the decision at the toss, because if it is going to swing under lights, I don't think there's a better bowling lineup in the world than what we have in terms of the seamers. If it's not going to swing around or nip off the seam, then we are very gettable, because we don't have out-and-out specialist death bowlers in this group, so it is a bit of a problem. And that's where if I'm looking forward now, that's what I'm trying to base my decisions at the toss on. I'm also trying to get those injured players back. There's a whole heap of questions around that bowling lineup, but getting the best 5 back out there is the key.
The injured players. So we've got Henry now down with a hamstring injury as well, Hess. You've got Lockie Ferguson down. We don't know where he's quite at yet. You've got a few players hanging around. Jamison's hanging around. What do they do?
Well, I mean, Jamison's actually just played a Plunket Shield game back in New Zealand, so unfortunately he's not on deck either. So the only replacement you've got over there is Tom Blundell, who's obviously there for Kane. So New Zealand are definitely under the pump from a bowling point of view. There's not a lot of options. Ish Sodhi's there, but heading to Bangalore in the next game, you know, Ish Sodhi's probably unlikely to come into the equation again. So you're pretty much left with the bare minimum. And even then, with Matt Henry, you're probably less than that. So they're either, they're not going to be able to fly someone over in a short space of time to play. So, I mean, there's real hope that Lockie Ferguson or Matt Henry can make a really quick recovery. And the physio's going to have to be working pretty damn hard over the next 48 hours, that's for sure.
Let's look at the batting then. Devon Conway didn't get off to a start, and from there it just slowly fell apart, didn't it? Apart from Glenn Phillips getting a contribution of 60.
Yeah, those sort of garbage time runs, really, and that's no disrespect to Glenn. The fact is the game was well and truly gone by that point. We've seen the teams that have done well in this tournament. The top 3 has stood up, and they've been the backbone. South Africa is almost a prime example of that. If that top 3 scores runs and lays a platform, they've got all the power in the world to bring in those big totals that are tough to run down. Australia the same, when they got those 380 against us, you know, it was on the back of 2 centuries at the top. So we desperately need Devon Conway to get going again. He started off the tournament really well, but has just fallen away a little bit. Ravindra's had a better tournament than what anyone could have hoped for. And Will Young keeps getting starts without going on. So we need to find a way to get those top 3 to lay that platform, because there is plenty of power. Mitchell, less so Latham, he's more of a manipulator of the ball through the middle. Phillips, and then, you know, even Chapman when he gets out there, Neesham too. So there are those options, but somehow we have to not be 1 or 2 down inside 10 overs and get back to what we were doing at the start of the tournament, which was laying a really solid platform for the stroke players to come in.
And it really doesn't help that tail, Hess, when you look at a guy like Neesham having to get 0 off 8 balls. He's a guy you need going out there hitting from ball 1, right? You can't have him in that position.
I mean, look, he's an explosive player who, yeah, you're right, as Scotty's alluded to, if you set the platform, he can come out and he can do something special, like he did against Australia, and he almost got us over that line. But, I mean, he's also got a bit of an injury. He got having a whack on the wrist and probably wasn't at full power either. So definitely some depleted resources. But, yeah, I mean, that middle order's only powerful, as Scotty's alluded to, if the top order set the platform. And I mean, Will Young, for me, he's a really nice player, but he just does keep getting starts. And he does need to convert. He does need to be able to bat deeper than he is. Rutchin's been outstanding. And, you know, we can't always rely on the young man to get us out of trouble. And Devon's probably been the one who's, you know, got nicked out early, and it does expose that middle order. You know, he's such an important player for us, especially without Kane Williamson there.
2 games left for the Black Caps in pool play, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. So now, Scotty, considering what we talked about before with this kind of bowl-first policy, let's imagine they're going to go there again on a flat deck in Bengaluru. What do you do with your opening bowlers? What decisions do you make to make sure that you can get early wickets and get on top of the teams?
Well, they may not have any options. That's the problem. We've just talked about all the injuries. If Matt Henry can't go, then it's a Tim Southee, Trent Boult opening bowling combination, which I think all cricket fans in New Zealand would love to see. Tim, I thought, looked a little rusty, and that's to be expected. He's been out with the injury for a while now, and walking straight into a game with two very good sides was always going to be difficult. So, I don't think they'll lose anything necessarily with the new ball. It's making sure that the other 30 overs are taken care of. We know Santner will bowl 10 of those. Can they make up the other 20? Can they get Ferguson back on the field? Does it mean that now that they're down to 11 fit players, does Sodhi have to come in? They don't have any other options because there isn't any bowling cover there. So I have less worries about the new ball. That'll take care of itself. There's plenty of experience. It's how they match up those the next 30 overs, because we've talked about Pakistan before. You have to they're the same as us. You get rid of that top three, you make that middle order do the batting, then I think you're well and truly on top.
How do you see it, Hess?
Yeah, very much the same. I mean, you actually have to take wickets at Bangalore. If you don't take wickets at Bangalore, you're going to chase the ball a lot. And if you've got guys set in the last 20 overs, it's an incredibly tough ground to defend. So it's one of those that if you don't take wickets with a new ball, I mean, Ish Sodhi, he could be a decent option there. Pakistan are not historically great players of wrist spin bowling. And the thing in Bangalore is that it will spin a little bit. So rather than having another medium pacer like a Jimmy Neesham on that, you may as well have someone who's actually an attacking option and can take wickets. And Ish Sodhi is certainly capable of doing that. And as Scotty said, New Zealand might not have any choices. Pakistan got absolutely rock and rolled by Australia at Bangalore in the one game that they've played there. So they went for 400 bowling first. So they've had a little bit of experience there. New Zealand are now going to another ground where if they don't take wickets, it's going to be incredibly challenging. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how the side will shape up.
It's also the trajectory of these two sides at the moment. New Zealand have had a couple of bad losses in a row. Pakistan have got all that typical Pakistan turmoil going on with the off-field stuff that's happening, yet they produce a performance like they did to really get that net run rate back again. So are they now a side full of confidence? It's really tough to figure out the enigma of Pakistan. But I think they'll be buoyed by the fact that this result, the fact that it's such a heavy loss, the net run rate has taken such a huge blow. We'll see two teams that have probably flipped in terms of the confidence scale of where they sit in this tournament. I think Pakistan will be a danger.
Yeah, and you talk about that net run rate down to plus 484. Pakistan are in the minuses. They're below New Zealand on the table. Sri Lanka's also below New Zealand on the table. How does that table pressure play into this game, Hess?
Well, I mean, New Zealand's definitely started to come back to the pack, though, haven't they? So the rest of the tournament would have been watching that game and would have been quite happy with the result from, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Pakistan are now all back in the mix where they weren't like 3 or 4 days ago. So New Zealand will be looking over their shoulder, and I think it's, the fact it's a 3-4 day turnaround. They've obviously got to get their best 11 on the park and actually find some confidence because, Pakistan are a dangerous outfit. Especially with that little bit of confidence, and as Scotty said, plenty of turmoil in the background. You
don't want to be creating an essential extra playoff game against Sri Lanka, do you? You don't want to be in that position.
No, I think they would have targeted Sri Lanka anyway and said this is a game that we have to win if we want to get through. I don't think that's changed with what's happened. Sri Lanka are a side very similar, actually. They can turn up. I mean, I was commentating the Asia Cup last year. They went on and won it. They beat Pakistan and India, and they went from a team that looked like they've never played the game before in the first couple of games to looking like world champions. So they certainly have that ability to do the same thing. So New Zealand can't take them lightly one bit. They have to make sure they get their business done. They've been very methodical and clinical in the minnow games, if you like, the so-called teams that are the outsiders. They've done really well, New Zealand, against those sides. I think Sri Lanka is another one. They have to get on top early, and then the class of New Zealand should see them through. But I still think that the other playoff teams will be looking to play New Zealand the way we've wobbled, the injuries we have, and we should still be looking, even after tonight, we should relish an opportunity to play South Africa again in the playoffs if we get, the semi-finals. Sorry, this is not a franchise competition. The semi-finals, if we do get through there again.
Okay, before we go, your confidence levels from you sounds like they're not overly high necessarily. Are you confident they're going to make the semis?
I had them as a bubble team when we started the competition, where if they played well, they might slide into fourth. That confidence went through the roof with the quality of cricket that this New Zealand side played. They were amazing in those first 3 or 4 games. not quite so much in the last 2 or 3 games. I think we are still a step behind. But one-day cricket, anyone can beat anyone on the day. So I still have faith and confidence in this group, but they will have to try and find a way, and the injuries don't help, of getting that 4th spot sewn up.
And for you, Hess?
Yeah, for me, it's like, look, you've reached the last 2 round-robin games, and it's still very much within your control. So I guess you look at that from a positive point of view. Regardless of what happened, we've got to this point where if we win our next 2 games, we walk into the semi-final with confidence. If we win one, we're starting to worry a little bit. So, I'm sitting on the fence. I had New Zealand sort of struggling to get into the top 4 now. I think we're favourites, but we've got to turn things around pretty quickly.
Uncomfortable place to sit here. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Also for you, Scotty. Thank you for coming on in. And you can catch the rest of the Cricket World Cup, obviously, here on Sky Saturday. New Zealand versus Pakistan. Let's hope they get going and really get into these semi-finals. It's crunch time at the Cricket World Cup. Thank you for tuning in to No Boundaries. Mā te wā.